So, you want to start a band, but you don't know any musicians and you haven't got the slightest clue where to begin. No problem. In this video, I'm going to teach you the exact steps that you need to take to turn your music dreams into a reality.
Let's get rocking!
First things first, you're going to need to find some other musicians. Don't have any friends? That's fine. We'll get you some. Depending on your age, we'll have different options for seeking out other musicians. If you're still in high school, I encourage you to start talking to other kids that listen to the same music as you. You can start by asking people that are already in the school band, but there's a genuine chance that there's kids that don't play music yet that have thought about starting a band. When I joined my first band, I didn't even play guitar, but a friend said they were looking for a bass player and I wanted to give it a shot, so I just got a bass and figured it out. It's been 20 years since that fateful day. If you're a bit older and you aren't in school anymore, there's a ton of places to meet other musicians. So get out of your house, go out to some local shows, and get involved in your local scene. That's where all the other musicians are.
Like, yeah, I am totally in a band.
The goal is to start talking to people and make as many friends as you can. I know it seems scary, but the music industry is all about making friends, so you might as well get used to the idea. Even if you live in a city with no music scene, there are tons of online communities full of musicians looking for other people to work with. Things like Skype and Zoom have made it possible to work with musicians worldwide, so there's really no excuses. Now that you've managed to wrangle up a bunch of musicians, or wannabe musicians, you'll need to get your hands on some gear. If you're older, there's a good chance that the musicians you've convinced to get in a room with you already have their own instruments. However, if you're young, you'll need to beg, borrow, or buy to get your hands on equipment. Whether you need to convince your Uncle Larry to let you use the dust-covered guitar in the back of the tool shed, take up a lawn mowing job over the summer so you can squirrel away a few dollars, or sell your baby teeth on eBay to a collector, you need to find a way to get an instrument.
Some might call me a collector.
Suppose you're going for a typical rock band formation. You're gonna need a drum kit, a guitar, a bass, a couple of amps, and something for the singer to use so that they can hear themselves over all the smashing and feedback. A megaphone is a cheap alternative to a microphone, but they sound like garbage, which is perfect if you're starting a punk band.
Oops.
Once you've rounded up some gear and found a place to practice, I suggest the most supportive parents' basement or garage, you can start figuring out who does what in the band. If you're young, there's a good chance that the other kids in your band aren't very good at their instruments yet, which is a good thing. I encourage you to swap around instruments and see who's more naturally inclined to each one. Maybe you thought you wanted to play drums, but the stress of keeping everybody in tempo gives you anxiety diarrhea, and you'd rather just play guitar. Or you have endless supplies of energy and enjoy lugging around more equipment than everybody else, making you the perfect drummer.
I haven't played the drums in 20 years. Okay, drumming is pain.
Once you spend some time playing around, you'll all eventually settle into the instrument that's right for you. If anyone can't decide, just put them on bass. That's where they belong. This will be fun because you'll all be learning from scratch, but you'll all get to learn your instruments together, which will build bonds that last a lifetime. Or at least until the end of high school, which feels like a lifetime.
High school sucks. Everything sucks.
If you're older, the musicians you've met most likely already know what instruments they're comfortable with, and you don't really have to worry about this. Now that everyone has an instrument, it's on to the most tedious but critically important step of starting a band. Practice. That's right, being in a band isn't all shotgunning beers, chasing around groupies in your underwear, and doing drugs in the bathroom at 3 a.m. No, being in a band takes a lot of practice. Like, a lot of practice.
1, 2, 3, 4.
For the next few weeks and months, you want to practice as much as possible, so make sure that you can get together after school, on weekends, days off, whenever you can squeeze it in. Learn songs from the bands you love and play them repeatedly until you can play them in your sleep. If you think you're practicing too much, I can guarantee you have yet to practice anywhere near enough. This might seem boring and repetitive, but all of this practice will do two things. First, it will help you find a groove with your bandmates, which is critical because being in a band is a team effort and you must gel with everyone's playing style. And secondly, it will weed out the people that don't really want to be in a band.
Yeah, I'm in a couple of bands.
Trust me, a lot of people think they want to be in a band, but they really just want to party and fool around. You don't want that around you. It's exhausting. These kinds of people gravitate towards bands because they think it's all fun and games, but once they realize how big of a commitment making music is, they'll either quit or more likely just stop showing up altogether. Then you can replace them with someone that actually brings something to your band.
Oh, that's great! What's your band's name?
While rehearsing, you get to do one of the most fun but unbelievably stressful things that comes with starting with a band. Picking a name. At face value, this would be a relatively simple thing to do, but if done incorrectly, can cause long-lasting feuds between band members that may end with them refusing to be in the same room as one another. First off, you're gonna need a band name that suits the style of music that you play. For example, you probably don't want to call yourself Monster Death Cult if you're a jazz band, and the Fuzzy Bunnies just isn't a great name for a death metal band.
What kind of music do you play?
Death metal.
Next, you need to pick a name that everybody agrees on, so let everybody pitch ideas. As I've said, a band should be a group effort, so giving everyone a say is vital. Pitch ideas, write them down in an extensive list, and then vote on the ones that everyone likes the best. If you find a name that everyone agrees on, that's your band name. I guarantee you're just gonna end up hating it in a year anyway, so try not to stress too much about this being perfect.
We were Mouse Rat, but then we changed it to just the tip. Muscle Confusion, Nothing Rhymes with Orange.
Oh, and make sure you go on Google for 5 seconds and check to see if there's any other bands using that name. Shouldn't have to say this, but I've seen it so many times that it makes me physically ill. Do not use a name that another band is using. I don't care how much you think the name Atlas happens to suit your particular brand of neo-funk grind pop. If your band plans on going anywhere, it'll just cause headaches down the line. Plus, it's lazy. Get creative and find a name that's uniquely yours. Worst case, you can just throw a number on the end.
The number band thing is out, okay? Blink 182, Green Day 75. These names are not cool.
Now that you've got the perfect name and months of practice under your belt, it's time to play your first show. We did it, Mom. We finally made it! If you listened to me way back in step 1, you've spent the past few months getting involved in your local music scene. You've met other musicians, made friends with some other bands, and now's the time to get those bands together and organize a DIY show. Contact a local venue and ask them if you can rent the space. Of course, if you're young, you'll probably have to play somewhere like a Legion Hall, or a bookstore, or a friend's basement, but there's really no excuse not to find a place to play. Once you and 2 or 3 other bands have a place and a date sorted out, start telling all your friends. You can print flyers, post on social media, whatever you gotta do. You want there to be people there because you need to learn what it feels like to play music for human beings that aren't your parents. Practice and performance are 2 very different things. By this point, there's a very good chance that all you'll know are a bunch of covers, and that's okay. Most bands' first sets are either entirely covers, or they're all covers with one original piece thrown in. You're still getting started, so no one expects you to have mastered the craft of songwriting. Plus, your friends will be stoked that they know all of the songs in your set list. Congratulations, now you have a band.